Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday night again. It is week 3 coming up this weekend, this Friday, Friday night. I hope you all can hear me. Still brushing off the dust on this thing a little bit. Excellent. Thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate everybody's understanding last week. Sometimes you got some down days, down weeks. Last Wednesday was a tough one for me. And as always, as Daniel will say, real life comes first, and that's really a mantra that we try to strive for. And we're here for you. If you ever have a down day, just reach out. We try to make the best out of everything, and are here for each other. So anyways, it is we'll pretend that episode 3 happened, or it was canceled last week. I apologize about that, but we are back better than ever. And yes, so week 3 is incoming this Friday, 2 days away, and this is where ish gets real. This is now teams have 2 games to scout instead of just 1 or none with week 1, and they now have a lot more data and tendencies and started to figure some game plans out, and it might be time to start to add things in, move things around, and things as coaches go, and same thing with players. You guys are getting better and better each week, so it becomes a whole new ball game. This middle section as we're leading up to the big championship throwdown in mid-December. But I'm here with a variety of people, some new, some back. As always, Daniel, my right-hand man, welcome back after our week off last week. Welcome back. Great to have you here.
Hey guys, do we really have a week off? Because I don't feel it at this point when it comes to work and school and all that. But guys, good to see you guys. Let's see some fun acts and let's see what we talk about this week about last week because we had some good games.
Absolutely. Robert Cherry, we'll be talking about your game. Welcome. Thanks for coming in again this week.
Yes, thank you for having me again.
And we have newcomer Nicholas Frossil. Is that how you pronounce your name, I assume?
It is.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Yes. Woohoo. All right. Thanks for coming on. You're here to this week, and we'll see about future weeks if you're interested to keep on if you have fun this week. Joining our panel, sort of representing the minor league players and joining in on the conversation and things. Yep, 2 Bruins are now in the building. So thanks for coming and joining us. So all right. Well, that's without further ado. Actually, no. Let's start quick. Let's introduce you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about who you are, Nicholas. Is that Nicholas? Nick? Do you have a preference? Is that your real name or Bone? I've noticed.
Yeah. So, I mean, Frossel's not my last name, but Nicholas is, so you can call
Cool.
me Nicholas.
Okay.
Nick is fine. I usually go by Nicholas at work, and makes me feel a little bit younger
Awesome.
sometimes with the full name. From the New England area, I've been really enjoying playing and watching my player kind of progress because I think I have like maybe 5 progressions in so far. So it's nice to see the difference between when I first started and already seeing some of the differences on the field. So it's really fun.
Awesome to hear. Yeah. Um, you were out there, San Jose Fuel, is that right? Or San Jose Flight? I'm sorry. There's a
Yes.
Birmingham Fuel a few seasons back. San Jose Flight. So you're familiar with Art, is that right? And
Yep.
yep, he's the coach over there, and things. Cool. Uh, Tell us a little bit about what your experience has been like so far in the minor league.
Just overall, it's been really fun. I first started off with my team with San Jose, and everyone in there is really nice. Jukin came in and he kind of helped me with how to set up my progressions and what I might want to do going forward. Art and the rest are just really good at kind of an overall. It's been really fun. We've been bantering back and forth, so it's nice to kind of go. I like the idea of having the team chat along with an SFLm general and then the regular general. So it's kind of nice to hop back and forth between the 3.
Yeah, nice little context, like small pool with the people that I'm like I can be myself or a little bit, just who's watching, who has viewership of that, and do I have to be perfect or on my best behavior? For lack, I mean, I don't. Once you get comfortable, it's not that big of a deal. But anyways, let's see. What is you mentioned a little bit the locker room. So it's been a good experience. People are supportive there. You got your nice little activities going on in there. I assume.
Yep, it's a great place. I feel like your internal locker room is probably a better place to almost be more braggadocious and um, where you can kind of, I don't know, without setting anybody off because you're just talking in between your own team. So it's
Yeah.
kind of nice to talk up yourself or talk up your friends in there. Um, but yeah, everyone's been pretty active. It was also nice. I think I brought this up in conversations, but it was really nice when the two-way players came in because then they started talking. So they added a little more information. Like I think like Jay-Z Bacon was one that talks a lot.
Mhm.
So it's nice to kind of get them in there because they're playing, but they've had experience in the league. So
Mhm. And really sort of bringing in that extra energy or fire
yep,
into that. Cool. Good
yep.
to hear. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about that, and welcome to the crew, welcome to the group. But yeah,
Thank you.
we'll get going, and so yeah, first thing on our docket is to take a look at week 2 results. So yeah, last week we saw Lexington coming into Albuquerque, and Albuquerque taking the win in that game. Daniel, do you have a little breakdown or any information on this game?
This is the one I sadly missed most of, but it looked like Albuquerque got back to their winning ways and controlled most of the game. It's good to see Albuquerque after the step back they had the week before, I should say, because it's not last week. Don't mind me, I'm all over the place. The week before, how they actually struggled against I believe Madison, wasn't it? They really struggled in that game. So it's good to see Ty get his shots, get his touchdowns. Lexington will be fine though. It's just a step back for Lexington, I think.
And yeah, as I was preparing for this, I was looking back a little bit. I think it was 21-34 or something like that versus Lexington. Lexington, I'm sorry, against Madison. Blah. In week 1, Albuquerque again not doing a poor job, getting 21 points. That's not bad. This week, getting into the 30s is a little bit better. So it seems like you said, getting into more of the potential, reaching that potential that we feel is there on that team. Robert, do you have any comments or anything on this game at all?
Well, from what I see, it was statistically it looked like it was a close game. 376 yards by the Miners, 392 by the Adams. The only thing I see sticking out is the Adams had 3 rushing touchdowns. Miners didn't have any.
And Nicholas, were you able to catch this game?
Yeah, I've been watching all of them. I think
Awesome.
well the first game that they were in, they was this the first week or the second week?
This is week 2. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Goes to say Ty played a lot better, um, which I think made a big difference because I think Ty had a really, for his skill set, he had a really poor game the first game, and he came kind of back in the second game, which was really nice to see. So I think the Adams were a little bit more balanced in the second game.
Yeah, again, that first game against Madison, I think, was the Joseph Lama game with I think maybe 5 interceptions or something. So again, just not on the mark. Getting the cobwebs off after the off season for Ty.
Yep, yep.
But yeah, Albuquerque bringing it back, putting the pedal to the metal, and gassing Lexington over the top there. Game 2, we saw Lincoln come into Madison. And this one again was all Madison on specifically in the air. They've been opting to go through the air for the most part, and seeming to take on Lincoln. I think one of their touchdowns was on that punt block thing situation, the thing that people have been talking about. Daniel, were you able to catch this game?
I was, and all I have to say is Prince Wonder, because he had a hell of a game. 9 for 127. Come on, that's
Wow.
ridiculous. Just 100 yards off 9 targets. That's insane to me.
And Robert, any comments on this game? I'm sure this is one that you've scouted in preparation for this game.
Yes, I have, and yeah, Prince Wonder did amazing, but you can't forget Ron Haynes. He had 9 catches as well, 110 yards for a touchdown. And Switch Thumper, he was out there killing it. No interceptions, 3 touchdowns, 331 pass yards, 69% completion. That's really good.
Yeah, I know in early talking before the season started, talking with Coco Raccoon, the head coach for Madison, that he was uncertain about with the brand new quarterback coming in, what they're going to be able to do. But again, this is a coaches league, and so you can coach the heck out of players and really bring what value they have and get them to do what they need to do. And a good game plan can trump star players on the opposite side of the game. Or so excited to see what they. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming game this week in 5-10 minutes or so. But yeah, Nicholas, any thoughts on this game that took place?
Yeah, I was really surprised by Thumper. Now, you might have to give credit to the two wide receivers. You might also have to give a little discredit to the DBs. I'm not sure, but he looked. Well, I didn't realize he was only. I think he's an 83. He's not really highly progressed, and he played like someone that was in his 90s or low 90s. So I was very surprised by that, and I did love the the punt that was returned for a touchdown because I think even the players on the field looked confused because the guy that actually ended up picking up the ball was just like jogging to it, and he's like, "Should I pick it up?" And then he grabbed it and he ran for it.
Is it still fair game? Did they touch it? I wasn't. Yeah, it was a. I didn't see it live. I saw someone clipped it, and it was something that will probably be talked about for seasons to come. Definitely. So, game three saw Ottawa coming into not Minneapolis, Annapolis, and was able to hold on to take the win there, 2017. I'll start with you, Robert. Tell us a little bit of analysis of how you thought this game played out, and um, yeah.
I gotta say, I gotta be better as a coach. I messed up a little bit on my playbook, but luckily the offense was still able to hold it together and get third down completions done and go through the air really well with Lakeman.
Mhm.
But the rush game was my fault. I added in a couple plays that shouldn't have been in, and that cost us the run game a little bit.
Lucky to hold off on there. It seems like Daniel. Do you have any thoughts on this game and how it played out?
The first half was really interesting because it looked like neither defense could stop the other for the most part. They kept moving down the field up and down easily. And what's really interesting, you mentioned the run game, but it's actually the Annapolis run game that didn't have one. 10 carries for only 23 rushes. Like you got to do better than that, no matter what level of stats you are. You got to be able to perform better than that. Overall, though, it was a pretty even game. First half's up and down, defensive mind in the second half. Ottawa squeaks by, and Ottawa's doing exactly what we said they need to do: win early.
Very cool. And Nicholas, any thoughts on this game before we move on to the next one?
I mean, just because I'm relatively new to the league, I might not be noticing certain things a little bit more in depth. But so I'm talking about quarterbacks again. Lakeman, for an example, he seemed really efficient. There weren't a lot of mistakes in the game. So, I mean, it wasn't high powered offense flinging back and forth, but there weren't a lot of mistakes either, which was kind of
Mhm.
nice to see.
Yeah, in researching, the upcoming games, I was looking at the stats, and Lakeman, I think, is one interception for 3 touchdowns. So not huge in scoring of points, but his completion percentage, I think, was in the mid low 70s, which compared to the others, I think is higher. I think there was only one other quarterback that might have been comparable. So very efficient with the ball and not turning it around, or turning it away, turning it over. That's the word. Which is as equally as valuable as scoring points. Keeping the other team from keeping that ball. So that's awesome. Keep it. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming game in a moment. But the one I saw live, and I saw the Ottawa ticker going, was the Tacoma San Jose game. Seeing that sort of going a little bit back and forth, and seeing which one was going to come out of it, the victor. Nicholas, did you want to share with us a little bit about your breakdown of how your game went?
Sure. I mean, it was a really close game. I feel like we're a little slow on the offense, but pretty strong on the defense. I think our coaches really turned it around because I feel like the first week was very you kind of just got to feel out what's happening, and then the second week I feel like they adjusted really well because Blanco is a fresh quarterback.
Yeah.
I think he had his first week was his first progression, so for him to be semi efficient in that game was really nice, and Cooper was just going nuts. He was
Yeah.
making diving plays everywhere. So that was really nice to see.
Yeah, it was interesting. That was the common theme coming up for, I'd say, the first 3 quarters of the game, and then a couple other players starting to get involved, other receivers, and similarly on again on Tacoma's side, I don't think they ever felt like fell into a rhythm. It seemed like it was a little bit of ups and downs, and what they seemed to start getting their footing, the defense or themselves shot themselves in the foot a little bit, and either turned it over or just went, could not complete a conversion to a first down or things. Robert, did you have any thoughts on that game at all if you were able to watch it?
To touch on what Frossil said, Terrell Cooper had an amazing game. 7 catches, 126 yards, and a touchdown. Like that's really impressive. That's I'm looking at the stats here. 18 yards per reception. That's on 11 targets. That's amazing.
Phenomenal, yeah.
That's really effective.
And Daniel, any thoughts from your perspective?
Well, I'm just going to touch up a little bit on that because I want to show how amazing that actually is. Austin Blanket only had 197 passing yards, so Cooper had 126 of those.
Wow, he was.
Also, on the run game, 135 yards for JZ Bacon. We knew he's going to stomp people. I think Tacoma's in this weird transition period because right now they're still looking at coaches, right? They're still trying to get people in to help out. So it's not like the team is all together and the coaching staff all the way through. So I think as the game or as the weeks go by, Tacoma might harden up a little bit. It sucks as us Tacoma fans seeing a
Mhm.
loss, but that one was really whoever had the ball last might have won that game, and that's what ended up happening.
Yep, and it was almost like uh, I'd almost say that the flight sort of almost willed their ability to get those final points on that board towards the end there to come out with that W. It was a good game, good games all around. I'm excited. Even more games in 48 hours to come. I'm excited about those. So let's jump over there quick. So that does it with week 2. So our first game, the early game that'll come out, I arguably will say will be the game of the week with Madison. Its first away game coming into Ottawa, who's been so Madison having so far the best passing offense in the minor leagues comes up against Ottawa with currently the best passing defense. So I'm curious how this might play out. Again, not to say that Ottawa is a slouch in the run defense. I think middle, 60% middle of the pack, just a little maybe over the middle. But Madison has shown over the last 2 weeks, and now with a brand new switch from, I believe he was out third line, the third outside linebacker, switched up into being a power back. Michael Brown coming in. So we'll see how they're able to use a power back versus a balanced back. Um, we'll start with you, Robert. Hey, what are your thoughts on this matchup? How are you thinking this is going to play out? Or you don't have to give away any secrets, but just curious on your thoughts on, or if you want to say, nope, I'm not going to say anything, that you're welcome to that too. So,
Uh, yeah, I won't comment. The only thing I'll say is it's going to be a really good game, very close game. I think we'll see a battle on offense and on defense, like both ways. It'll be a battle all around. It'll be a good game.
I agree. I think this is going to be the one to watch. I think. Daniel, what's your thoughts on how this matchup might play out or whatnot?
Well, we say this is a coaching league, and so far Madison has been up and above what we thought they were going to play as. So it's gonna be an interesting matchup. It very well could be game of the year, but if Switch is playing the way he is, we never said a lot about him in the first week when did this, but he is playing lights out. He's playing better than most of the silver and gold at this point. The way he's just playing overall, I think this could be a shocker to most people how Madison does against Ottawa. Ottawa is known for keeping things close, but it's hard to go against the Madison offense right now, especially with all their names. They're like Claudius Periwinkle. We got Prince Wonder, Twist Comfort. All the names are great.
And Nicholas, what are your thoughts on how this game might play out?
I mean, I agree with Daniel. They do have probably the best names in the league. Um, I think it kind of is going to come down to maybe what progressions the defensive backs have chosen on Ottawa, because the wide receivers have been so good that hopefully they can counteract that with some good DB play. Maybe knock some passes down, um, keep Thumper from just getting in a groove.
Mhm. And you mentioned that too. That one thing in looking at the stats and things, Madison Link's defense isn't necessarily a slouch either. They're, I'd say, in the top third in defense on that. And we Joseph Lama had that big game week one, and they've been doing pretty good in holding offenses down. But I think this might be a good test now of uh, Ottawa's offense to see how can they score more than 20 some points. If Madison is allowed to score, they've been averaging 33, 34, 35 points a game so far in the first two weeks, but can Ottawa match that if their defense can't hold them, or if if they rely on their defense to hold them down, can they score enough points to overcome that? Matt Ryan has been having a great season so far. Looking at his stats, having so many tackles and pass deflections as well. It's going to be what is it? It is just an eventuality until those pass deflections turn into interceptions for him when they're taking place. But he's been a rock star in getting some tackles out there as well. GB Wallace as well on Ottawa, to name a couple. Yeah, I think this is just going to be a fun one to watch. I'm really excited to see how this one plays out come 6:30 Eastern on Friday night.
So, Axel, I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
So TJ in chat made a good point. As someone who's newer, what helps with awareness for the DBs? Is it consistency? Is it agility? What gets them more aware of the wide receivers around them?
So for defense, specifically for defensive backs, so coverage is a high value, what is this, a primary trait, kind of for a reason. And that one especially works well when you are back in a zone coverage, and it helps you as a player to know when to accept coverage when a new player is coming into your zone, and hand off to another player when someone's leaving your zone, and where you should be situationally. Aggression helps for your ability to jump and sort of go after the ball with more aggression, I guess, right? Pursue that ball while it's in the air. So the higher that is, and then the higher catch means that you can actually maybe come down with it versus getting your hands up to block it. Pass deflection. Consistency is in general broadly. You could, if you're a D&D fan, it's kind of like a modifier. Like, let's say you're it's what is it? So let's say you have a 92 in speed, but your consistency is 50. That means only 50% of the time you might be playing at that highest level. If your consistency is more of like the max of 90% of that time you're going to be playing at the max of your traits. So that consistency helps increase your probability to be playing at your maximum traits. So it's really like a more broad ability modifier. So that will help in all traits as you increase that. I mean, obviously, your speed and agility is your ability to accelerate and how fast you can go forward and back. Agility is more side to side in your acceleration to get up to that top speed. So all that sort of plays into how you can move around the ball. And then the other part is then making sure that your player is in the right spot for that to counteract that offensive play. So if that then is reliant on both the defensive coordinator to put the right play in the book for you to be able to counteract that play. So 50XA posts, put the defense ideally would be in either a cover 12 or cover 4 to have 4 over the top so that they can cover those post corners or those post and corner routes. And in those situations, it might be more like a 50-50 interception or incomplete, and more than likely we'll get not complete. If you're maybe in cover 3 or some other, maybe even too hard, if you're like for some reason playing the short game in the flats, and they run that play, you're only going to have two your two safeties in the back and your two corners are way up front, you're not going to be able to cover the three. So again, it's all in the play decision that you have in the book, and hopefully the AI will call that play when the offensive play comes out. So it's a variety of things that sort of come into how positive or how well um, something works. So again, even looking at Madison, if you have a maybe lesser value players, you can make them if you put them in the right spot. And Daniel can attest to this too with his time in Tulsa, his rookie year. If your defensive coordinator can put you in the right position to make a play, they can use that value as a copper or a bronze player could make a gold player type of play, and make it work out well. So it's a lot of different things that go into that, if that helps.
Yeah, just to clarify on that, in the Tulsa, it's my second year playing, but my first year playing the entire season. And defensive coordinator did a wonderful job. I was only a bronze, and I got 9 interceptions that season, and I made the All-Star game. A bronze player can make the All-Star game, no matter what your stats are. If you're put in the right position to succeed, you will succeed. You just got to follow through with the stats. Don't take ball hawk. That's the only thing I'm going to mention.
And if you want, feel free to ask the question. There's a past episode we did last season that we had Andrew Stelly, the deputy commissioner, on, and we went through all the variety of traits and how they play out on the field. So there's all that information is in episode 1 or 2 of last season. But if you're interested, hit me up in the Discord and we'll get that video to you. You can watch it. But yeah, so long story short, a little bit of everything, but just keep putting points and diversifying. I'm a big fan of not min maxing. I would like to have a balanced bronze, then move into a balanced silver, move into a balanced gold type of player, or balanced copper. It's not all about just the primary traits. It's a little bit about, hey, I should add 4 points to consistency and 4 points to jump right now to be able to push myself a little bit further. They might be secondary traits, but they're going to help me perform better, and be more of a balanced type of player. That's my own personal philosophy, but and there's many different POVs out there about progression. And if you have other questions, you feel free to reach out to us, or your coaches or whatnot. So cool. Well, that's game 1. All right. Game 2. We see San Jose coming into Lexington. So we'll be seeing Austin Blanco out there and Nicholas, you out there in the backfield, taking the game, battling Chad Moore and the Miners. Nicholas, tell us about what you think, how this game might play out, what you're hoping to see, or what actually. Yeah, that's we'll go back to the previous game in after we get done with this one. But maybe who you think might have a standout game?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like it's going to be another close game. I mean, we're not like a throw down the field offense, so it's going to be a lot of short passes. I'm assuming a lot of run plays. So I mean, I would probably say, just looking at it, I mean, Swayze has been pretty good on the Lexington side. On our side, I mean, it's obviously going to probably hinge on Cooper. He's going to be, really like an important part of the team. I myself, for an example, I think I played pretty well the last game. I did let one pass go sail over my head. I think that was a speed issue, but it could be a coverage issue too, or it could be the safety not coming up. But I think our coaches are doing really well, and I'm not privy, obviously, to Lexington, so hopefully they can adjust also. But I think it's going to be a really close game.
Cool. And yeah, you mentioned that, it's interesting, talking about how defenses play, and especially in a passing formation and things. Cornerbacks, especially sometimes a strong safety or even free safety, come up to sort of kind of scout and make not audibles, but they make adjustments and move. And sometimes that itself can delay or put your player and there's no real way to control that. That just sort of is the game doing the game thing, again too. So again, it is sometimes what it is. So That's interesting. Daniel, what are your thoughts on how this game might play out?
This is gonna be another close one, as all the minor league games has tended to be for the most part. Uh, we're actually starting to see stats how they progress and how things affect the field a bit more. And the way the season goes on, there will be more of that and more of that, and the two-way players will start to fall a little bit behind. But San Jose has one of the two-way players that's going to make the biggest mark here in JC Bacon, who's now probably got a primary spot in the major leagues for their Fort Worth. There you go. That's the name I was looking for.
Yeah.
So you probably won't be seeing him after this minor league season.
And Robert, what are your thoughts on how this game might play out?
I see Austin Blanco taking another step forward. He's going to rely on the experience of Bacon, Cooper, and Bandit on that offense, and I think they will pull out a win. I think they're making strides forward. The defense is solid. I think there's a lot of veterans on their defense as well. That secondary for sure,
Yep.
and I think they'll pull out a win against Lexington.
Do you have a specific player on either side that you think might be the one? So, Danny, you thought maybe J.C. Bacon might have another great game?
Well, see, that's kind of cheating, right? Because we already seen how well JC Bacon Trail Cooper did last week. I don't want to double down.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw something else. I'm gonna say, why not? We're gonna say Sam Blotner is gonna have a couple of picks. He's gonna go off. It's gonna be a
Okay.
good defensive battle for him.
Okay. And Robert, do you have any picks on who might have a standout game?
I think Terrell Cooper will have another big game, another 100-yard game. I think in receptions
Okay.
and yards.
And Nicholas, do you think your player is going to be out there checking along, or do you want to pick another player that you think might do well?
I think I'll do fine. I don't think I'd be player of the game. Another one that could pop out would be so much focus on Cooper. Anderson played a lot better than he did the first game, so his progressions are going along well. So he could be one that pops out on the San Jose side. I don't know Lexington that well, but if it's a close game, could be the kicker, Mr. Washington.
It could be. Yeah, I'm gonna say maybe Stan Diamond over on the flight might have a great game. Maybe taking down maybe Chad, maybe Sanders, getting in their way a little bit, keeping him from rushing through there. And Noah Rieger, I think, might have a good game. I'll double down on both the OLBs on both sides, the starting OLBs. Linebackers represent.
It sounds like you're a linebacker.
Maybe. Cool. I'm gonna go back. We're gonna go back to the first game. We didn't really do any pick'em type things there. Oops. There we go. Dana, who do you think might win if you had to pick one on this one?
Oh, Robert's gonna hate me because I'm Canadian, but I'm gonna pick Madison.
And Nicholas, do you have any thought? Do you have are you leaning one way or the other for who gets the W?
I also feel bad too because I've taken a shining to Mr. Lakeman. He's a nice guy, but I'd probably pick Madison also.
Okay. And do either of you have a standout player that you think might go off in the game? Either of you?
I mean, I can go first. I mean, obviously Prince Wonder or Haynes could do really well. If we went to the Ottawa side, I mean, Michael Knight played really well. He could be someone that's really important. Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay.
For me, I'm gonna say it's so easy to pick like the offensive medicine and just say all of them go. You pick your choice, pick your poison. But I'll go to the Ottawa side, and even though it's gonna be a losing effort, they're gonna play well. I'm gonna go on the defensive side and say Roy Towers is gonna have a pretty good game. I think Switch is gonna struggle a little bit at the beginning, and then he's gonna find his rhythm in the second half.
Gotcha. I'm not sure who will win, so I'm not going to guess. I'm going to say Matt Ryan and GB Wallace have a good game. I think Matt Ryan's going to get his first pick, and I think GB Wallace is going to have another be one of the standouts on that defense there. Cool. All right.
Oh,
thanks.
one other thing to point
Yeah.
out. I think King, one of the quarterbacks from Tacoma, he made kind of a good point where Thumper has passed a ton. I know they did just get a running back, but it might be if the defensive playbook of Ottawa compensates for that, they could have issues if because he is a young quarterback.
That is true. I think it's like by a significant margin, like 120 or 130 attempts versus the rest of the group being in like the 70s. So a solid 50 more passing plays over 2 games is pretty significant. Um, all right, we'll move on to game number 3, which we see Albuquerque coming into Lincoln to take on the Rattlesnakes. Here we see again type attack had a better game last week than he did the first week on their way up. I think Lincoln itself has been progressively, finding their feet, getting a little bit better each week so far. Daniel, do you have any thoughts on how this, how this matchup might play out? How this, what your thoughts are?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is don't look at the stats here and say, oh, Lincoln has a gold running back. They're just going to stop. We've seen it already last week that Lincoln kind of struggled a bit, especially in the air game with Kenny Slider. He threw 2 picks. So that could be a little worrisome. I hope Mike Allenden gets it together because I like Lincoln. I like what they do. Albuquerque played much better the last week than they did their first week. And if they figured out how to do that again, Albuquerque can be a really good team soon and through. They have 2 good wide receivers, both of them in the 80s already. So it's not like Ty doesn't have weapons as well. Logan Lee will have his running game, but once again, I'm not sold on this. Let's fill him with animations and let's see how he does kind of thing.
The wide receivers though are two-way for Albuquerque, but there's Ty. He might be able to actually all three. So two wide receivers and their tight end are two ways. So, but we'll see how that plays out in week 6, 7, 8. Right. Robert,
Exactly.
your thoughts on how this game might play out? Any key matchups or mismatches that you might see?
I think this will be a game. It's going to be a mismatch game where Albuquerque will come out flying. Like I could see Ty breaking his record, and possibly even Reno's record here. Like with this, he did beat his record already, I think, for passing yards. I think, but I could see him doing that in this game, relying on that veteran receiver and tight end, and Lincoln. Their corners are decent. I've seen them play, but I think the wide receivers have an advantage.
And Nicholas, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think on the flip side, I think Albuquerque. I think this might be a runaway game because I think Albuquerque will also. I mean, their defense has been flying all over the place lately. I've seen a lot of batted down balls, even if they're not interceptions. So they could give Slider a real fit this game. Um, so I think I do feel like Albuquerque might run away with this one.
And so right now, I'm just looking at this too. I see like a potential mismatch with the lack of an inside linebacker for the Rattlesnakes, and part of me wonders if I was Albuquerque, I might be putting just a little bit more emphasis on the run up the middle or up the gut might be a spot to get a couple breakaway spots. So a little strong ISO or a weak dive or something, a weak ISO in there could see maybe some value to take advantage of that. But you've got TJ Harper who could easily swing in there and get that. But I'm sure he might be out on the outside trying to keep the outside runs at bay. But yeah, you've got a solid passing attack with Albuquerque, and again, like you said, Lincoln sort of finding themselves. Like, what is their identity this season heading into now season 6 here? What can they do? They've got again a veteran tight end Brian Murphy coming over from historically at Denver, but 2 pretty fresh wide receivers coming in, and they might be able to get them to do what they need to do for Kenny Slider. But let's see. Yeah, Nicholas, do you have any standout players that you think might have a good game in this next week for these 2 teams?
For Albuquerque, I'd go with Alex Marshall. I watched that last game, and I felt like he was everywhere. On the Lincoln side, I think I would kind of agree with. Well, I would say TJ Harper. That's what I would say, but I feel like this is gonna kind of be if the because I feel like the defense is gonna get run over even with TJ Harper.
Mhm.
So I feel like this is we need a star to come out on the Lincoln side for the offense. So I know Lee has a lot of animations and it hasn't really come to fruition on the field yet, but he could have a really good game.
Very cool. And Robert, what are your thoughts on if there's a standout player and who might potentially get player of the game at the end of it? Do you think?
I'll double down. I'll say it's going to be Ty. He will run away with this and get player of the game. And like I said, he has potential to break a record in this game.
And literally with his scramble, you never know. He might actually have a run in there to run away with it as well. A few rushing yards. Daniel, do you have any top player picks for this game?
Well, before I do that, I'll give my little bit of insight once again on Ham Anderson being their major free safety in Lincoln and has been missing progression thoroughly in the pros, so he's not going to move anymore on progression wise. And him only being a 56 in the pros, a lot of wide receivers, a lot of offense are going to start torching them. I think this is the point where they're going to start seeing progressions themselves, even the weaker ones. So I'm going to say Honest Odabe is going to have a really great game.
I can see that. Again, those safeties are super important in that deep game, as well as the last resort. If when defending a finesse back, that might get out and get some good blocks out there past that 10, 12 yard mark. So that could play into both Batak and Slap having a good game against Lincoln. But yeah, we'll see. For myself, let's see. I hope TJ Harper has a solid game. I'll just say that. Well, he might be having to play inside and outside linebacker. Just remove the first
Do you
letter.
want to flex on that comment? Do you want to flex it?
Flex the flex squad is it? I think. And then let's see. I think they're going to get Craig Westlake going. I think they might be playing deep, maybe to keep Ty from having a huge game, which might open up some of the inside. Why am I blanking? Not the out route. It's the inside route, whatever that is, or some sort of inside post for the tight end. I think Craig Westlake could have a solid game in there for that one. All right, so we'll move on to the fourth and final game. This one finds Annapolis traveling to Tacoma to take on the Grizzlies. Daniel, give us a little rundown of what you think might play out in this game.
Please, Lord, if there's anything I ever want, it's a Tacoma win at this point, please. um, uh, so Annapolis has still been struggling on the defensive side. We've seen it. I've alluded to it in week one. This is not the same Annapolis defense as we've seen before. Gene Struthers is a hell of a player, hell of a quarterback. I touted him a lot last season, but he just they don't have the tools to me. It feels like they're missing something. They're missing that little magic.
There's
Tacoma.
there's a square that needs filling.
Oh, you think so? Maybe there's a bush that they need to go around at some point. But JP Elliott had a really good game last week for Tacoma side. Surprisingly enough, he kept up a little bit with JC Bacon. He did get outclassed in the end, but 77 yards is still pretty good on the run himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was watching that game, and Rob Hunt was having a really solid game out there as well. Bob Lung, I think, had a few catches to keep the ball moving, but again, it just wasn't quite enough or consistent enough. So hopefully, they find a little bit of a pattern or get into a flow of some sort for themselves. Robert, what are your thoughts on how this game might play out?
Sorry, Daniel, but I don't think Tacoma's going to win this one. I think Annapolis will bounce back. I think they will get their running back involved, which will be that turning point, be the big difference.
It's because I didn't choose Ottawa. I understand.
And Nicholas, do you have a thought on how these two this matchup might go?
I'm leaning towards Tacoma. I think in the Discord we had a back and forth over who was top QB, and I think Jackson could have a shot to shoot pretty high on this one. Because we're praising Thumper and all that, but Jackson, this might be his game to kind of get some yards in and pass Thumper on that. So I'm going with Tacoma because they have a really good, solid offense. Um, and it doesn't necessarily look like the Annapolis team is that strong on the defensive side, but we'll see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm. And we've been seeing Tiga Clay has been, I think, on the defensive listing and stats. Tiga's been, I think, is number 2. I think maybe with 22 tackles so far in the 2 games. Just playing lights out for that backfield there. Angel Maldonado, stepping up a little bit here. There, they might need to have a strong game to counter um, what Ronnie Shanahan and Struthers might be able to be trying to get to happen out there. Um, yeah, Nicholas, do you have a thought on who might have a breakout game in this game?
I think Elliott could have a breakout game. I obviously watched that last game closely,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like he was running really well along with Bacon. I mean, Bacon seemed kind of next level, but I think Elliott could kind of push that up, and I think he's going to have a good game.
Cool. And Robert, do you have a sort of a player of the game that you might be thinking about right now for this game?
I think player of the game will be Chris Grant Jr. I think he will surprise people. I think he'll this will be his game.
Gotcha. Yeah. And Daniel, your thoughts on who might um, be taking home the player of the game?
I know this person's gotten injured a little bit throughout the games, but I think Lili Nakai is going to have a good one. She always makes good catches. Let's hope she doesn't hurt anything as she's making those catches this time around, because she's a very good player. All she needs to do is make sure she could stay on the field, and I think Tacoma got a good shot.
Do you think she's the second coming of Tita Queen?
I don't know. Tita Queen is Mother Grizzly. She's even in the chat talking about it all the time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think this is going to be a sort of a defining game, I think, for both of these organizations. Can Tacoma overcome? I think they're 0-2 at this moment. Again, they haven't lost by a ton. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Do they? Could you correct me if are they 0-2?
Yeah, I believe they are 0-2.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
That's why I'm praying for a win.
I gotcha. And Annapolis, are they also 0-2 or are they? Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so this is someone will be getting their first win, so that'll be exciting. Much like the I guess the last game, someone will be getting their first win, and the first game, someone will be getting their first loss. So that sort of it could be both games. I think are not to miss. 84 of these. There are many reasons not to miss any of these. So if you've got 2 screens or you've got one up on the television and one up on your phone, don't want to miss any of the action come Friday. Daniel, we haven't talked about this for a little bit, and now that we're 2 weeks in under our belts with the minor leagues, is there anything grinding your gears lately at all with other than binary math and hexadecimal stuff?
We will not talk about that because it takes a half an hour to do one goddamn question. Okay, you know what really grinds my gears?
Tell me.
TJ Harper alluded to this in the chat, and I'm going to bring it up myself. It is very important, guys, to progress your players. This is how you get into their pros. You need your stats to build up. You need to be a focal point, and right now, especially now, because we're getting closer and closer to the championship game in the pros, the scouts are watching your YouTube games. Get in the chat, talk, be respectful. I know when Cam does announcing, he likes to mention people in the chat as he's announcing, saying who's here, who's doing what. Hey, how you doing? This person says this. This is very good for the owners to see that you're involved, you're getting involved in the games, that you're really trying to make yourself a player here. Because it doesn't matter what your stats are, if you yourself is involved in the game, people will take you, the person, over you, the player, any day of the week, as long as they know that you're going to be a standout and you're going to stay with that club.
Speak it, preach it, brother. That's awesome. So that sort of sums up the 4 games that are coming up. So we've already talked about the first one being the standout. Do you all agree that first game between Madison heading into Ottawa is perhaps the game of the week, or do you have any opinions to negate that, or your own thoughts on that? What might be the game of the week?
Well, that one's probably going to be the game of the week, but I think this one right here is going to be a good game of the week as well. I mean, someone got to win, right? Someone has to win. And it's been close games most of the way through. So I think this one's going to be another good one. But it's hard to say Madison's not going to be the game of the week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Nicholas, did you have any thoughts on, would you agree that game one is the game of the week? Or I know for you, you've probably got your, the San Jose flight is always the game of the week for you. But in general, do you have any thoughts on if that one, or if there's other ones that you might be, you're more interested in?
No, I agree. Madison and Ottawa is going to be probably one of my favorites to watch, just because it'll be nice to see how they play off each other. Um, I think their strengths are their weaknesses. Their weaknesses are their strengths. So it's going to be kind of fun. I haven't really seen any blowouts in the minor league, so I hate to pick on Lincoln, but it might be fun to watch the Albuquerque game because
Mhm.
I feel like that it might be a little bit lopsided, and it'll be kind of fun to see that. See a lot of offense. But yeah, I think Madison and Ottawa is probably going to be the highlight.
Mhm. And really, I think it might be, again. Now we're getting to week 3, I believe, out of 8 weeks with the 8 clubs. I don't believe there's any buys this season. We've historically had buys previously, and this might be like a trend setter. This is the time, which team is going to start on like the continue on the path that they're on, whereas one, and I think both the bookend teams are both the bookend games, Madison, Ottawa, Annapolis, Tacoma. I think that these are important for both of those teams to be like, can we stick a stake in and claim either we are moving on from here and changing our season for the last game, or we are claiming we're going to keep doing what we're doing and see this thing through like the first game on Friday. So I'm excited to see how that might all these games might play out. So yeah, 6:30 on Friday is when it starts on Eastern, all the way through. Tacoma has historically now had the final game for the third time in a row, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Any questions? Anything that you guys? Any comments? Any last sort of final words as we sort of start to wrap up our show?
Well, I'll just speak a little bit about something that's been going on in the Minnesota locker room.
Hmm.
Someday in the future, I hope everyone tunes in and gets entertained because me and a certain Meerkat had a bet on who would get the most interceptions in the season, and because your boy D Wright came out at the end, even though Meerkat was leading the entire season, uh, he has to do something, and he's going to do it live on this show for me, and it's going to be very
Oh.
entertaining. I really hope you guys tune in. We'll try and set it up so everybody knows when it happens. But Derek you guys are in the tree for what Derek's going to be doing.
I'm excited. I did not know D&D had a bet. That's cool. Robert or Nicholas, did you have any comments or questions you'd like to ask or share?
You go ahead, Nicholas.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, um, let's have some appreciation for the players that are under 6 feet tall, short kings. 5'11" player here, and I will be good, I swear.
Agreed. You're not the shortest out there. How tall is Derek? Is he 5'10" or 5'11"?
He's like a little child compared to me on the field. It's hilarious to watch.
6'4"
Eddie,
versus
actually,
5'1".
I had a question for you too. If you want to take
Yeah.
a look at chat.
Yeah, so resolution when your player doesn't have the same plan of progression that his team leadership might have. Yeah, that's the thing. So some of this chat did have around progression and who do you look for top down progression? I personally don't like to force progression, but I want to. So this year I set up conversations, wanted to have some back and forth with each player. So I went through. I provided a these are my thoughts, and I broke it down with a couple paragraphs for each person for each player, recommending this is where I'm seeing what I'd like to see. Do you have any thoughts, any comments, or any reaction to this? And there was a couple people that most of them were like, yeah, I love what this is, more thought than I've ever put into any of my progression. Great, thank you. And it's broken down by week. I've had a couple that were like, yeah, I like actually like to see a little bit of a switch or a change here. I'm like, sure, let's figure that out and try to come together, because that's one thing that I personally like as a coach, as a front office person, to be able to know, regardless of what your progression is, at least knowing what it is means I can leverage and know what's coming, so that I can use that on the field better. Because if I don't know when you're taking an animation, I don't even know you're taking, that's not valuable for me to help game plan. So at least being open and honest and having a conversation, for me it'd be like, I want to be able to have that open and honest conversation with you as a player and respect you, but it is ultimately your choice. I would not force that upon you, but I'd love to work together and have an agreed upon progression, not agreed upon, but at least visible progression, so that I know what your thoughts are, where you want your player to go, and hopefully you hear the extra knowledge that I might be sharing, and we can find a way to meet in the middle, or even if you don't, that's fine. That's at least share with me what your thoughts are. That's the kind of way that I like to go with it. So for me, it's not about resolution. It's more about just transparency. I think is the key, and open dialogue. And as the season progresses, if you're noticing things, if I'm noticing things with how the player is being played, or if we want to on the coaching side, take and maybe make some adjustments, be able to say, hey, let's change this up a little bit. What are your thoughts on changing this and making a focus this way instead of that way now? Or they could come to me and say, I'm actually seeing this. I'd like to do this. Sure, let's talk about that. So having that open conversation, I think, is more important than shoving progressions down anybody's throat. Nobody likes that. So that's my thoughts. Daniel, Robert, Nicholas, do you guys have any thoughts on progression and top down versus bottom up, or is that something that you're like, nope, this is my player, I want to only be able to be the one in control of my progressions, or what's going on?
So I'll talk a little bit about my what I've been up to, because I didn't really have people tell me what to do. When I first came to Tacoma, I was like, okay, I gotta progress. What do I progress? Let me know. I didn't know what I was doing. I was progressing by myself for the longest while until I actually reached out to Hanzo, who was our defensive coordinator at the time, and we had a good conversation. I called him. We talked it out. We figured out what would be best for my guy going forward, not for just Tacoma, for us to go into the pros. What would be the best way to get me looked at? So I think it's a communication thing between you and whoever is giving you the plan or talking about the plan with you. I think it's really about communication.
And I'd even say, get multiple perspectives. Just like you go to a doctor and they tell you something, some big news or something, go get a second opinion, kind of thing. you know who do you trust, and who do you feel has the knowledge that you're looking for, and go have a conversation. It might be your coach, it might be me, it might be Daniel, it might be Doug Day. I know he historically has tried to help progressions and things, and each person has slightly different interpretations of what you might do, or the path to get there, and things, and really it's about what, after you gain information, what do you feel is right for you? And especially as a minor league player, or again, talking with how could I best help the team. Again, it's all about how do you compromise? How do you find that middle ground, so you're helping the team, you're helping yourself grow, you're becoming the player that you want to become? Because I know that is really a big thing. Like you're developing that identity of who you are as your player, and as you get better and better, it's going to start to show on the field, and things. So, Robert, Nicholas, do you have any thoughts on progressions?
Well, I believe progressions, ultimately it's the player's decision, but the coaches can guide you, and I think it's important to listen to the coaches. They want what's best for you, uh, to help you get drafted, and I think that's, yeah, I think across the board, like if you are a good coach, you want to do what's best for the player, not necessarily uh, doing changing it, um, where it hurts them. You want to have a guideline for them. You want to show them step by step, like, hey, you should go this route. Focus on these first, then these. Uh, someone mentioned in the VC, about animations. You definitely want to stay away from those as long as possible. Work on your attributes first, and yeah, that's what I got.
Cool. Nicholas, any thoughts in your 5 or 6 weeks here so far, and how's it been going? Any thoughts on how do you progress, and what's happened? What's been your experience so far?
Mine's been pretty good because I have a Jukin Rukin. I think that's how you say it. He's
Yep.
been helping me with it, and he's he's he gives his feedback and he gives reasons why, and he also takes feedback. So I ask questions. For an example, I said, "Well, I'm a cornerback. Um, what if nobody wants to draft me as a cornerback and it's open for cornerbacks to go to free safety or something in the draft? Should I take that into account?" And luckily he was smart enough. He says, "I already did." So he knew stuff like that. So it's good to ask questions back and forth, or maybe ask questions of, well, why am I taking coverage over this or over tackle and they'll explain it to you. So but I do agree. I mean, it's a role playing game, so you still want to have your own flair to it. So make sure you agree with what you want them to do, but um, the feedback is really great to have. And they're building you like Jukin is building me to win with San Jose, but he's also building me to get drafted. So
Yeah,
he's taken both of those into account.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly a similar experience that I had in Madison last season with Coco Raccoon, Michael Prococo, doing that same type of thing and being strategic enough, being like, okay, Nicholas, you're a cornerback, but if you put your speed and or agility up to 92, and that might be 4 points, that if you're drafted as a safety, their max is 88. Maybe we just go up to 88 and start filling out some of your other areas, little things that you don't even quite think about, to make yourself look flexible and be able to fit in more slots or spots in different teams, which is pretty cool. Very
Well,
nice.
that's good to know too, because he brought that up for an example also because um, I think your first instinct as a cornerback is I need to be able to keep up with a 92 receiver. But he kind of taught me to do a more balanced approach. He says it doesn't matter if you have 92 speed if you have zero agility and and you
Yeah.
can't move around and you can't cover. He says so it's usually better to take a balanced approach.
Yeah, it's just like inching a variety of things up. Yeah, I like that. Cool. Any other questions? Anything?
Well, we got another one in the chat if you want.
Oh,
TJ Harper has mentioned what's more important: Discord activity, league jobs, or player content. So I assume this is to get shown or showcased to be able to get drafted in the future.
mhm.
What's more important to the eyes of the owners?
I think nothing trumps Discord activity. Positive, supportive, accepting, welcoming, team focused, league focused Discord activity, gen chat, communicating with those regular things like that. I think that could trump the others. I feel like league jobs get you a little bit more of a deeper depth, and I think stats is a great place to start. Stats, or again, making social media for yourself or other things, ways to show some of those extra skills. I think that's frosting, but I think Discord activity, who you are as a person, tends to come out in how you interact with others. So I think that to me is the baseline. you know and it's not necessarily about frequency, but it's just making sure that you're on a regular basis. That could be once a week, but as long as you're maybe jumping in there, having good discourse, respectful, but also quipping a little bit, just sort of finding yourself, how do you fit into the hierarchy of the 700 and some odd other players out in the gen chat area right now. Let's see. And player content comes at it to a head, in week 7 or 8, and into the championship as you lead up to those couple weeks before the draft. I think, I know a lot of people have been putting together their little videos of highlights and even highlighting other members of their team and things. I think that is great. But again, I think the best thing then is to comprise that all into a nice little package that you can share to as I'd say during and or after the free agent signing period. that's going to be and the lead up to the draft. I think that's going to be the best timing to get your portfolio, your resume in front of GMs to illustrate who you are and what you are. So that's my thoughts on those. Discord, I'd say player content and league jobs are kind of similar. League jobs, I think, might give you deeper relationships with a certain team. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Axel, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been up to date with the Gen chat of what happened with Canton's front office sending a player down to the minors to build up, and how they're saying they want that player back in Canton. Like, don't draft this person. They were sort of referencing that. What is your view on that?
So my view is that the league does have rules around announcing signings, which are kind of draft things, or that there are people that are attached specifically around staff members. There's non-exempt staff members, or I'm sorry, there are exempt staff members, I believe is what it's called. Those are the head coaches, offensive coordinators, and director of communications. Those are ones that you can announce prior to the transaction page of the actual contract being signed. And so the argument that has been around, well, this person is a member of the LLC of Canton, which is an external, outside of the team itself per se, role, vice president of business development, versus part of the team. But they're when you draft somebody, you usually want them to be, you want all of them. That's why you're drafting them. You want the skills that they might bring as a person, and other things. And if this person is like, well, yeah, I might be a player for you, quote unquote, whoever the pro team might be that drafts him, but I'm still going to be putting my effort of anything else towards Canton. It does feel, I'm not as concerned about like providing secret information about like what's happening in the locker room or plays or anything, like insider espionage between the teams. But it just is, it feels like you're not getting the full person. And I'm kind of like on the fence. Like, I'm also not a big fan of like the idea, many of like last right, like before the draft, people were being brought into teams, like specifically Canton, were undrafted free agents, bring somebody in at a copper, not having them go through the minor league experience, and ultimately taking a position, not being drafted, just bring them into a team. And they were touting not having drafted anybody or not being part of the draft, the only expansion team ever to not have to go fill a spot in the draft, which to me feels, well, I want these people that are here paying, that have been putting in their time. I'd rather have that. We had 5 draftees in our team. Every one of them wants to come back, which is awesome. That's sort of my thought. I don't have a hard and fast answer. There's a lot of new stuff that is different than the type of role or the type of a lot of new information that was not part of the environment when that rule was originally written. So there might be some rule changes or rewriting, examining of some of the rules about conflict of interest and other things. I'm not really sure where I stand, but I sort of shared a little bit on that, I guess. Eddie,
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it puts everybody in a little bit of a awkward situation, and that's not what we want. We want people to have fun. We want people to go where they kind of, I guess I don't. We want people to go to a locker room where they can lean in, have fun, and and find that home. And if they are already linked to another place, it feels sort of odd that they're going through this experience this way, and through the draft itself. So, all right. Any other questions? All right. Well, join us next week. And I was toying with the idea. I think next week we're going to be doing sort of an after dark segment. Not really even segment. Just we're going to do our normal show next Wednesday, 7 Eastern, 8 Central. Right? No, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. for roughly an hour, like today, maybe a little after. But then we'll end the show. I'll end the stream, and then right after that, we'll start up After Dark, where you can come back. We'll be sipping on some, we'll talk beers maybe, or we'll talk stogies. I don't know. We'll be just having fun, shooting some. We try to make the show more PG, make it family friendly for the most part. That After Dark will not be as family friendly. Daniel may take off his hat again.
We will not talk about the last time when someone got to see Baldus, and then I got France going here saying I'm drunk. I'm stumbling over words.
I was stumbling over. I couldn't hold a glass at the end of that. Eddie has another question. If you have to choose between a player with high value but doesn't help off the field, or a player with low value but willing to help,
I can answer that one. I want the low value but willing to help person, 100% every time.
I think for the most part, I mean, there's certain situations and timing, I think, has to do we already have somebody providing the help that they need? There's a couple other variables, but I think in general, as a basic term, helping off the field is huge, especially in the coaching, scouting, game planning kind of thing. To me, the more hands, the lighter the work, and there's so much that comes into play in game planning. Robert, you're going through it right now. You're simming right now, are you not? So there's a lot
that's what I'm looking at.
there's a lot that goes on. So the more information you have, the more accurate that information, the better game plan you can plan out. So
yeah, and I'm just going to elaborate a bit more. So I help where I can, but last season I was helping with scouting. I was helping Axel figuring out the defense, figuring out the offense, how to do plays, all in the midst of the season, not knowing anything before. So if you can help, please go and help, because every team needs it to a certain extent. They want someone willing to help, because that means you are invested in wanting to stay in that team. You're invested to continue with this team, to continue to be a part of the SFL. That's just a brighter future for you.
And Danny, you're saying you didn't know that much. Like, you're learning through, a little bit about the plays, scouting. You're starting to capture a lot of the formations and things.
A whole bunch, considering I didn't know football at first when I first joined this league.
Yep, but even that, I think, being someone who can be a sounding board, to be a somewhat like what is it, a canary in the coal mine, almost. Like, Daniel's like, okay, don't go too far, let's get back to who we are as a team. Like, how do we focus and double down on what works for us, instead of, again, trying to game plan against trying to change up the game plan too much, or things like that. So that extra voices can help someone from going mad in the game planning and going a little crazy. So exactly, Ty, a fresh perspective, a new point of view, holding up a mirror and saying this shit is ugly. And like, you gotta, like, something's gotta change. Sometimes it gets hard, especially on losing streaks. So you're like putting in more and more effort and more effort, but nothing positive is actually coming from that effort. Sometimes you got to break down and be like, I got to go rogue. I need some breath of fresh energy or air to come in and help with that. So that can be huge as well. So, Ty, you talked about outlier positions like quarterback or running back. I bet that probably has to do with Eddie's thing. Like, I do think, I mean, there are areas, and I think that's some of the nuances. If it is a gap that needs to be filled, higher value does, like, if a copper, bronze, silver quarterback with that can do something versus a gold quarterback who doesn't provide off the field support. It might be a transitionary thing. It might be something like, hey, that's much like what Atlanta's doing with you too, is like bringing you in. Like, how do we, or like with what JZ Bacon and the Toros kind of thing, how do we get the best people in the locker room, best people on the team, without jeopardizing the season, with maintaining performance, but also helping the team, the front office, the people, the game planning even better. There's so many different variables, but yeah, but in general, to generalize, it is a powerful, it makes you double check, double think, makes you second guess, maybe I should look at that person. I mean, I know in when we were putting together our draft board, so much of it was the player's passion and interest in learning, and that goes a long way. And evidence describing situations where you have done things like, yeah, I sat down and had a 2 hour phone call where the offensive coordinator was sharing all this stuff with me. That shows some dedication. Like, I'm actually willing to step forward, talk to people, and try to learn is a huge thing. So, all right, cool. Well, it is 8:17. If you have any other questions, these are the kind of questions. Feel free to pop them in our show Discord, or tag me or us in SFLm Gen Chat or regular Gen Chat. Myself and or others are willing to answer. Other people, you'll get a lot of different perspectives probably. Feel free to ask these questions. These are great questions. Eddie, are you not in our show Discord? I wonder if this will work. If the night. No. Okay. All right. Well, I'll get that to you. Let me just do that. Okay. Appreciate it. Excellent. Right hand man. Yeah, feel free to come join in the conversation. This is open.
This is an awkward way to let Eddie know that he's been blocked.
Yes.
Oh, right. Eddie, let me just take a look at this list I have.
But yeah, this is, for those that are, this is meant to be a growing community that is focused on the minor leagues. It is open to anyone and everyone. Specifically, hey, owners, GMs, feel this is a great way to interact with minor league players that are not necessarily in the Gen Chat, but this is sort of a minor league safe space. Again, I have a set of rules. Everybody's equal. We're here to support the minor league and the growth of these players. We're there we can have some fights and discover insights, but in a respectful manner. It is not share it with your chest. That's another area. Feel free to go watch Eddie's show as well. That probably is on Thursday, tomorrow night or something. So, all right. Thank you for watching this show, Eddie. I really appreciate all your support over the years. All right. Well, with that, any final words, Daniel, before we log off?
I kind of mentioned my final words like maybe 20 minutes ago about Derek, but we'll just continue with something else. Guys, if you need anything, like Axel was saying, we are here for you. Shoot me a DM. My DMs are usually always open. It might take me a little bit to reply some days. That will depend on the school, of course. Something new, experience. I hate binary. I hate decimal. I hate hexadecimal, but we don't need to go too much into that. But we're always here. We want to see you guys progress and succeed. That's the whole point of this show. We want to see you guys flourish because it's almost like we're almost like fathers here, seeing our children grow up as we watch you play. It's important to us. We made so many friends like Robert Cherry, Derek Meerkat, Reno. We made so many friends off this show that it's so great. And Nicholas, you're going to be a good friend too. Thank you for coming on to the show. I do appreciate it. This is what this is for. This is what we need. This is what we want. We want to keep the community growing and keep building. So, guys, talk to us. We'll have you on. We'll interview you. We'll get your name out there. So, please, we're just a message away.
Robert, any final words for you coming up for your game on Friday?
I just wanted to give a shout out to Matt Ryan. He's actually assisting us in scouting, and it's been a super help, especially with the Sims that I'm seeing right now. We're doing really well, and I'd like to thank Matt Ryan for that.
Awesome.
And,
that's huge.
Listen to your coaches.
And Nicholas, any final words from you?
I don't think so. I think I just wanted to stress also. I'm relatively new, so it's kind of weird coming from me, but this isn't the NFL, so this isn't our job. I'm paying to play, so I want to have fun. So I think that is one of the keys to being someone maybe that would be drafted or people want to have on their team is just be someone that other people want to talk to or just hang around with or anything like that.
Love it. Yeah, positive vibes, just accepting, welcoming, and there to help. I love that. I want with Eddie now if he's listening. Minor leaguers, I love y'all. We'll just get that out of there. Okay, cool. All right. Well, have a good weekend. Good week. I mean, and we'll see you guys in the game day chats on Friday. All right. Talk to you guys later. Good night.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good night.
Peace.